All right, so we've got an Inside Star Citizen to check out today about cargo in Star Citizen, how it's going to change. This has been a long time coming. We started the cargo refactor over a year ago, and it's now finally getting to a more complete state. Y'all know how this is. I'm going to be doing a little react to this whole episode. I'll tell you what I know, what I don't. If you want to watch the episode before that, without the commentary, you probably should do that. But I'll be pausing and just kind of talking about where this all comes from and maybe some of the older discussion they've had surrounding cargo. But before we get started, I would like to hear from you guys. How are you feeling about this? Especially as like a non-cargo hauler. What are you thinking? How do you feel like this is going to affect you? Are you excited? You a little worried? Let me know. Let's get into it.
Cargo sits at the very heart of the non-combat Star Citizen experience. And as it continues to evolve in the upcoming Alpha 323 and beyond, its next major evolution is less about the places you'll go and more about the ones you'll start and come back to. Now, hangars, whether they're persistent, instanced, personal, or staging, make up the next frontier of cargo gameplay. And we went to Chad and his team for an early look at where they're going and how they're progressing. Let's find out more.
So, we've had a couple ISCs before to talk about the new cargo and hangars features coming, but now that we're here and about to release things, we want to talk a bit about how that impacts your play experience, even if you don't care at all about cargo.
Okay, that's literally the question I was asking. How's it going to change? Oh, with many bodies. They love messing with this suited character. Does this thing have a name yet? Have we decided on a name? I don't like facing this way. Hold on. I need to flip myself around. It feels weird. I keep looking over at myself and I'm looking in the wrong direction. There we go. This person got a name. What are we going to go with here?
So let's start with persistent hangars. What are they and what does that mean? So a persistent hangar is an instance hangar that is going to be assigned to you whenever you select your home location when logging into the game for the first time for a patch. When that happens, what we do is we determine the largest ship that you have and then entitle to you a persistent hangar that's of the size needed to facilitate that ship. Whenever
so
you
take the, I'm assuming then, if they give you the hangar for the largest ship you have at the beginning, like if you only have an Aurora, that would be a problem. So I'm guessing when you buy a hangar, when you buy a new ship, you just get a new hangar. If it's a different size ship.
Go into that hangar into the game, that hangar at your home location is always your hangar, and you'll be able to use it like your home. You'll be able to keep things in the hangar. You'll be able to leave things around. You can invite friends in. You can treat it like your own little oasis.
So it does sound like, it sounds like he's specifying that only the personal home location hangar is going to be the one where you can keep stuff around, even though I'm pretty sure they're all persistent. Let's listen again.
Hangar at your home location. Whenever you go into that hangar into the game, that hangar at your home location is always your hangar, and you'll be able to use it like your home. You'll be able to keep things in the hangar. You'll be able to leave things around. You can invite friends in. You can treat it like your own little oasis.
I'd love to know that, because that was specifically called out before, that both the personal and instanced hangars will be persistent. So I'm assuming that all of the hangars that we use will be able to keep stuff in. But he did say home location for whatever reason there.
So let's talk about for these personal hangars, how do you actually get into them?
They'll get to that, I guess.
Please proceed to side landing deck.
Oh! Wait, new Mobi-Glass. Is this our first time seeing the Mobi-Glass in ISC? I believe this is the first time. Interesting. It's definitely a different vibe on this bottom. You can tell, like, obviously they still have the old apps running, but this is the new menu on the bottom. Home, health, comms, contracts, maps, journal, knickknacks, still here. Reputation, Mo Trader for sending money, and it looks like vehicle. No, this is a vehicle management. This must be repair and stuff.
Please proceed to side landing deck.
You can make a request via ATC for landing, and when we do that, we'll check to see if you have any personal hangars entitled to you. You'll be able to enter in using largely the same methodology that you do now, land, and then you can just hang out in there.
Sick.
As far as
We're gonna
what
spend so much time in our hangars just hanging. Probably not, though.
can you actually do with your personal hanger and what kinds of things can you decorate with it, what we're going to do is allow you to call anything in your inventory up via that freight elevator. You can pick it up off the freight elevator either with your hands or using the tractor beam and just strew it about your location however you pick.
You trying to convince me these trolleys are going to work,
Also
though?
in the hangars, you'll
Like,
notice
you're going to have to show me that they do first.
several new kiosks. We have the freight elevator kiosk, which has a brand new UI and inventory system to deal with large volumes of cargo.
You're going to have on the left-hand
Look at that. Looks like an actual cargo management UI. Extend. You got the warehouse platform you're working with. Looks like you got the warehouse in the back and then the elevator here on the left side. So you can kind of see what you have and what you are currently selecting. Username selection. I wonder if multiple people can call stuff out of the same hangar, or if you can only call stuff out of your own. It's interesting. I hope we can see more of this UI as we go on.
System to deal with large volumes of cargo.
you're going to have on the left-hand side a section that is showing the contents of the platform itself. And on the right-hand side, similar inventory layout with all your armor and weapons and items.
And then you
Looking just
decide
as
what
clean
you
as
want
the
to
inventory.
spawn, in the freight elevator. The freight elevator then comes up, and then you can start doing like loading and unloading of various cargo into your ship and so on.
If you're considerate about how you're loading things and you're trying to optimize your loading times, it'll give you a lot of power as far as, for example, making sure that certain kinds of things are front-loaded on the platform to make your multi-crew loading as streamlined as possible.
Logistics. This is like there's trading, like paying and buying the stuff. There's hauling, carrying the stuff from place to place, and then there's also just the logistics. How do you load these things? How do you handle them with machinery in the hangars? This is cargo hauling as a full-on career has so much included in it. It's kind of wild.
And anything that's in your inventory, you're going to be able to call up. Some things you might have to put into an inventory container box. We're talking 8, 16, 24, even 32 SU size container boxes that you can put large items in. Now you can raise that up on the platform, including in.
There's another thing. There's so much information here. So this is showing basically the new container interaction
That you can
screen,
put
right?
large items in. Now
They've called this the looting screen, which we generally think of in combat, but this is also replacing any time that we are interacting with an inventory container. So all of those personal inventory places on ships, all of those boxes, all of our containers we're storing stuff in, this is definitely starting to push out our old personal inventory. Interesting thing is they don't call this the inventory, they call it the looting screen. They are like basically, it feels like splitting the inventory screen into various different physical locations you can access it, whether it's your Lizer and Vens, the freight elevator kiosk, the item banks they'll talk about, I'm guessing, or I don't know what else, or a ship thing. But I'm really wondering how they're going to handle character customization if they do continue to push out the inventory screen. We don't really have a way of looking at our character as we're equipping stuff. So we'll have to see what they do with that.
you can raise that up on the platform, including in collections, transfer that very quickly onto your ship, and then take them to another location. In your personal hangar, you'll also have access.
Okay, one more time. I'm
location.
sorry. I keep stopping so much. I know we have long distance shadows in the game, but I do wonder if this has anything to do with the updates coming to lighting pass on clouds.
In your personal hangar, you'll also have access to several other kiosks, starting with the item bank.
Which are another form of kiosk, which you could almost consider like a small freight elevator in a way, in that you can retrieve personal items such as clothing, armor, and weapons.
Got one in your hat.
Because the item that's being delivered will be delivered in a tray that's in the same machine. So you interact that kind of like you interact with a loot box and you get that out. So no other player can actually physically get anything from your local inventory.
And these item banks can be found not just within the hangars, but also the wider location, such as your hubs and other key areas of a location to retrieve your personal items.
Since you can't interact with your inventory anymore at any given time, It means like we need to have enough item banks around each location so you don't block each other from accessing a terminal, right?
It's just a quicker
This
way.
is such a huge change. It's kind of being introduced very lightly, I think, because we've known that it's coming, but there's just no inventory anymore. That's big. This is a really good idea, though. I do wonder about how they say you're just using your inventory, your loot screen, whatever you want to call it, to access these items and just kind of snap them onto your body. Does that mean they're not planning any sort of physical interaction with these? It looks like these little cubbies might come out here, but like they said, somebody else could steal that stuff. I wonder how they're going to handle this long term, or if they're just going to stick to magic equipping.
To get a quick gun or a few meta pins or your armor without having to load it up from the freight elevator. And the last kiosk that I want to talk about is the ASOP terminal,
which we have positioned in the hangar, so you can request your ships from within the hangar and not just the spaceport.
So they will still remain in the spaceport. So if you don't have a personal hangar in your location, you can request your ship also from there.
What we're doing is we're changing the way that the ships spawn in the game.
You can now request your ships from within.
Bro, we knew they might do it. That was always kind of a, hey,
The way that the
love
ship.
the way Elite Dangerous does their stuff because it doesn't magically spawn ships. We talked about how this could make landing pads work, but I'm glad they're doing this in hangars too. Little elevator that brings your ship up so you don't see it just pop into existence. But they're talking about vehicles. This is also a workaround we've been wanting for a long time, being able to spawn vehicles at space stations or landing zones. Yeah, they don't have vehicles spawning in on the freight elevators for whatever reason, it sounds like in 323, but the ability to still get them where you're getting your ship it's an excellent workaround. That only adds just a little bit more time. You don't have to fly down to the planet to get your vehicle, and that's good stuff.
Ships spawn in the game.
You can now request your ships from within the hangar and they will appear to you, but they won't just come out of thin air. What happens is the whole of the floor will open up.
You get this like amazing view of the hangar, the lights dim, the doors open.
And the landing platform will be rising up towards you and your ship will be there.
We try to balance it in a way that it doesn't take too much time for you, but also that it feels like it has the right weight to it, but also you don't have to wait for it too long.
So now you have a seamless transition and a realistic way of storing your ships away.
Additionally, you can do clever things like call up a smaller vehicle, such as a ground vehicle, drive it off, and then call up a larger vehicle. Then you'll have access to your ground vehicles without having to go to another location.
Yeah, good stuff.
You'll be able to call up multiple ships and
Temporary fix. This is freaking awesome. Oh man, and they haven't even really gone into replacing these hangars with art stuff too. We still just have two types of hangars in this game, I think.
maybe have one person fly off with one ship, call another one, have another person in your party fly up with another ship. Or you can just call up a ship, change your mind, and then call up a different ship without having to leave or anything like that. It gives you a lot of flexibility. And I can already tell what some of you are thinking right now. We're not going to let the system eat your body and store it into the inventory or anything like that. We'll make sure to account for that such that if there's a blocking change that happens, we'll stop the process, go back up to the default state, and then tell the
That's gonna happen to me so many
player
times.
about the issue so that they can account for it. If you do want to jump into the platform just before it closes and fall to your death, you can fall to your death if you want to.
Yes! God, I love more ways to die.
So this is really cool, and we're really happy to get this in. It's been discussed for some years now, and it's been a very tricky thing to fit in, and certain tech's required to be able to do it. You'd be able to have this hangar your own space and call your own ships and do a lot more within the hangar now.
Now that we're adding all of this new facility to the hangars in the game, allowing them to be persistent, adding these freight elevators, adding the ship platform. There's a lot of more things that we have to have in these hangars for them to be useful for what we're adding.
So the hangar sizes had to increase quite a bit. We did not want to do that originally in the beginning, but soon when we did prototyping, we figured out that not all the hangars, as I said, like the low-tech hangars in particular, are quite old by this point. Not all of them were to the same standards or metrics. So we figured that with the landing pad now going down, you had this gap for like quite some time before the doors close. So there was a very narrow walkway for the player sometimes. So we had to rejig some things and made it actually larger.
So the large and XL have had significant size changes. So the XL is about 20% larger and the large is about 30% larger. So certain ships that were a little tight can now fit a lot more easily.
So you don't feel like your wings almost scratch the walls of it. So it feels a bit more, so you don't feel...
I can't get over it, freaking Hurston. Everywhere you look, air quality, bad.
like your wings almost scratch the walls of it. So it feels a bit more natural and better to the play experience to land in your hangar now.
My spirit is singing in happiness.
The medium
Look at that.
is the same, but taller. And the small has not been changed. But we have classified ships to fit into the medium that were once classified as small. So hopefully a much better player experience than there has been before. And it's been interesting to take the design of a elevator and the door and extrapolate that across multiple sizes. So in some cases you can kind of widen out the door and use the same shapes, and in some cases you need to think really about how those shapes work, and sometimes they don't work within a small door, for example, when it did work in a much wider door. So we've had to play around with that and keep them looking consistent with each other, but also adapt those shapes to work for each size.
So this is an actualization of a long-term goal for this entire cargo career, to make the whole thing feel more real. It means that the whole experience is going to allow for manual loading. It'll also feel more rewarding because it'll give you more interesting choices to make throughout the process. It'll make multi-crewing a more interesting and useful experience. It's going to just make the whole experience a more skill-intensive and interesting and tactile. Another thing that we've talked about is automated loading in the games. This allows you to still do commodity trading with automated loading in the games.
So there's more info here. And this local market value descriptor is incredibly exciting. Huh. Interesting. So we're getting, how much inventory do they have of this stuff in this location? How much money per unit? How much time is it going to take to load? How many units are you loading? And then the price. It's interesting that it doesn't show you how much you should be charged for the loading. Let me show you guys the original concept for this, because this is going to keep changing. This is only the first version of this. If you go back to what they were planning on getting to eventually, and it's not going to look exactly like this, but it gives you an idea. So you can see that they're getting here in terms of, how many supplies are they showing you, what kind of time is it going to take to load your cargo, all that kind of stuff. But you're also seeing here worker hiring. Eventually, while the game will automatically load that cargo for you, we're looking for NPCs to do it for us. We're looking for AI to be able to come out and load this while we're off doing our own stuff in the city, which is kind of what they're simulating here. It's just not physically done. So it's basically the same experience, just not as immersive. And this kind of thing will also add to the cargo hauling experience. They're going to have to start paying us a lot more, though, for all this. We're going to need more crew for this kind of gameplay. It's going to take longer to load the stuff. We're going to be paying for more services. Pay up.
This allows you to still do commodity trading without needing to actually move the boxes yourself. It will be an option in the commodity terminal whenever you go and you yourself. It will be an option in.
Still the same amount of units, different price though. but they still aren't showing you the time, the actual cost of loading. I don't think 100 UEC is enough either. Like, it needs to be kind of hefty. I know I'm the one saying that we need to get paid more for all this stuff, but there needs to be like a balance to the economy. And they've talked about, and we've seen them on the reports, they're definitely working on economy. The prices of these things are getting balanced. I'm not sure if it's for this patch. It would make sense if it was for this patch, but we've seen a lot of talk of that, and they've been doing it over the course of the last year. So I do think within 323 or 323.x, we will see plenty of balance to make this make more sense.
In the commodity terminal, whenever you go and you pick the destination inventory, you'll be confronted with several options. One is the location inventory. The next will be all your ships that are at the location. If you choose a ship, you'll have the option to have it be automatically unloaded or loaded for you, of course, with an added cost. The ship has to be stored to allow for the transfer, and it will be time locked while that transfer is occurring.
So that means we can't sell from our ship anymore.
Different locations in the game will have different amounts of time, places that are...
Wait, where is this? I thought you were doing this from your hangar. This is back in the lobby at Area 8.
The transfer, and it will be time locked while that transfer is occurring. Different locations in the game will have different amounts of time, places that...
Looks like you can... Maybe you have to get it delivered out here and then retrieved in the front, or maybe they're just having two different UIs used here. I'm not really sure. I thought they said you were calling your ships from the hangar.
Are more optimized for trade, are going to allow for faster transfer. You'll be able to still do the trading. You just have to wait a little bit and pay a bit more money, so your profits won't be quite as good in that case. Once the automatic loading process is finished, you can just go to the ASOP terminal in the hangar, access it, raise it, and go off, and you're on your way. If you care about cargo, this is going to be transformational. But even if you're not interested in cargo at all, it's still a foundational change for the game that fundamentally changes principles about inventory, physicality, and your play experience.
The work's ongoing. We're nearly there. I think the team's done a great job on this. It's been tricky to get it working as it should be.
It's a big milestone for the game that's been years in the making and coming. While I'm here to talk about it today, there's been a large number of teams across the entire company that have helped. Everybody from art, animation, VFX, through to all of the gameplay teams, engine teams. We've had a huge effort from Austin, Montreal, Los Angeles, Frankfurt, Manchester. It's been a big endeavor. So I want to thank everyone that's been helping to see this vision through, and I'm really looking forward to getting this into your hands so that you can play with it.
All right. Before we wrap this up, just going to let you know now, because we're going to do this whole closing, I'm going to jump back to what we looked at CitizenCon, just to quickly review the other side of this, which is more of the missions you're running and stuff like that, because they didn't mention basically anything about economy in this. This was very much focused on the hangars and the freight elevators, which is cool. We need an explanation for that. But there's a lot more in this topic than what this episode included.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that the days of big ships scraping by the edges of player hangars are almost behind us. That you'll soon be able to spawn your ships and have them rise up directly into these newly expanded hangars.
Rise up.
And that the freight elevators and item banks within will herald a new future of physicalized cargo loading that should have long-reaching ramifications for life in the verse. And of course, while everything you see on ISC is always an early work in progress, because of the dramatic and far-reaching effects these systems will have on all life in the verse, you can expect this work will continue to iterate and evolve from what you've just seen between now and its upcoming targeted release in Alpha 323. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the process of game development with you, and we'll see you all here next week.
Man, I'm pumped for this. This is a big deal for this game.
Hi. We had a meme image for the end of the show. It's been our thing this season. This week's was a little too hot for TV. So we're gonna put this week's image in your hands. I'm gonna give you a frame and you put whatever you want on here. There you go. And here's my face, knowing this is a bad idea.
Oh man, that's gonna be fun. I got a couple ideas for that. I feel like because it's a green screen, we could actually do something pretty creative with a video on that. We'll have to see. Oh, maybe I'll throw it up on the screen here.
It's a mistake. It's a mistake.
It was a mistake. All right, let's jump back real quick to what they were talking about in this topic back in October at CitizenCon. Because this is ongoing. It's oncoming, I guess. As he said in the episode, like this has been years in the making. In fact, if you guys want to see where this started on the road map, got some music up in here. Okay, so if you go back to last year, it's like early last year, 2023, March 318, cargo system refactor. This refactor to the ship cargo system will allow both found and purchased cargo to be picked up, moved around, and placed into the cargo grid. That was like the first step. This was step one of the cargo system. And then I believe they did here. This is kind of an addition to the cargo system, in my opinion. Being able to move components was a big part of physical interaction. In 3.20, they do anything regarding this? Physicalized cargo update. This was to accommodate the release of the Hull C. It also gave us 32 SCU boxes. So, like, you can see this cargo refactor, basically every patch, every update over the last year has been trying to do something with it. Looks like there was nothing in 321 for it, though. But then we jumped to 322, and they gave us inventory cargo containers, which, in my opinion, is one of the bigger things. It's a little slept on. It was a lot going on at the time. And structural salvage, I think, took a lot of the kind of wind of this patch, the attention. But cargo containers, being able to physically store things inside of boxes, move those boxes and use them as a shared inventory with players, it was a lot better because players have for the longest time had to drop something on the floor for another player to pick it up, right? You couldn't put it in your ship and somebody gets it. You couldn't gather a bunch of things on the ground in a bunker and take it out to your ship and transfer those or sell them or something. This was a huge addition, right? But as we kept going, they get bigger and bigger. And now we're seeing this one with item banks like they talked about today, with the personal and instance hangars. Huge amount of work over a long amount of time. Because again, it's not like they just kind of realized they had to get this together. They've been working towards this for a while. In fact, this whole system was ultimately dependent on this bad boy here. So it came in 318. It caused a lot of trouble. It made a lot of difficulty for players. And at this point, if you don't hear from CIG about it, it can also almost seem like it's not even doing much. But it's doing a lot around behind the scenes. It's actually the most important part of getting server meshing running. And it's why we're able to now do this cargo stuff. So long-term development, longer-term gains, I think, as long as the game lasts longer than 12 years. Here's what they were saying about cargo, though, back in sort of October, more about missions and how this stuff will work.
Design. My name is Nick Etheridge, and I'm an Assistant Environment Art Director. So obviously, cargo isn't just about boxes. It's a big part of the game. Almost every aspect of the game has some kind of involvement with cargo. And I'm going to briefly go through some of them now. So let's start with missions. How will hauling contracts work in-game? We'll be introducing the Interstellar Transport Guild, as well as formalizing.
So this is basically just filling out the system, the cargo system's coming in, but it's going to lean heavily on reputation. That's one thing that we know they've been working on, but has never been involved with most industrial professions up until salvage last year, and definitely not with cargo. This is going to allow for a lot more types of missions and things you can do.
And relationship with the guild. This will lead you to gaining more lucrative contracts for specialized cargo and destinations, such as different forms of hazardous cargo, perishable cargo, riskier routes, and more.
One thing that they keep using as an example for this would be radioactive cargo, which we saw in CitizenCon. They're adding radioactivity to the game. We also are hearing about powered boxes that would need to maintain their power in order to stay cold enough so that you don't lose your job. More fragile stuff. Obviously, we have the quantum sensitive and time sensitive stuff. So cargo is not just going to be about loading stuff, it's going to be about figuring out how to load stuff based on what it is you're loading.
As you know, there's lots of commodities in the game, and different commodities have different properties. As you know, with events like Xenothreat, we have some special cargo types with different attributes, such as time-sensitive cargo or quantum-sensitive cargo. But those were a small selection for the event, and they were the two-handed carryable types anyway. We'll be expanding those types, plus lots more types, to the wider game and to these hauling contracts.
How cool is this going to look as a 32 SCU box?
It will affect the choices you make when you are handling, storing, and traveling with the cargo. For example...
Now, earlier in this video, we looked at the loot screen popping up when they accessed the container box, but I'm still convinced that they're going to have little UI layouts on each box in the game so that when you're accessing that inventory, you're actually using that screen rather than something on your visor. Maybe they won't do that because they like that looting screen, but I think this would make a lot more sense and an easy way to get rid of inventory while keeping you in the spot. But we'll see.
Example with size and weight. Is it carryable? Do you need a tractor beam? What type of tractor beam do you need? Is it a handheld one or a ship tractor beam? Some containers can only be moved with ship tractor beams, for example. With health, has the container got good integrity? Is it holding fragile goods? Do you need to handle it with care? You can't just throw all containers about. For temperature control, do you need to ensure the container is powered so it can keep the contents cool? Or do you need to get to your destination quickly, otherwise the contents may perish? For security, can the container be locked or hacked? Can the contents be scanned, or is the container tracked? Will there be pirates or law after you when you're holding this container? Hazard containment. Is it radioactive? You might need the right protection against it, as you may have seen in Jens's presentation earlier. Can it explode? You might not want to put these containers on a more exposed section of your ship. And many of these attributes are going to be visually distinctive.
Don't store those containers on a hull C.
So conversely, if you want to steal, for example, some cargo on a hull C, which does have very exposed cargo containers, you might want to avoid shooting blindly and accidentally blowing up your potential profits. So look out for those types of containers.
And if you are a hull C cargo hauler, maybe you just don't want to have that kind of stuff on your ship.
Back to mission progression. We'll be introducing perks and rewards as part of fulfilling contracts and raising reputation with these companies. For rewards, we'll have branded ship and tool skins, branded clothing. There will be collectibles to decorate your hab, hangar, or ship, or you can put them anywhere you want. And there'll be more exclusive rewards that we'll be revealing later. Thank you.
And those are all, the best part about it is that that stuff is all based on in-game. You can't actually buy these rewards or these flares or these clothing or skins. So that's really good to hear. Ultimately though, this stuff is not talked about today. The different types of cargo, the reputation rewards, or any of that stuff. I do think that we're gonna see this. I think we'll see rep added with these companies. Not sure how deep they'll be able to go with rewards in the first place though. And I would be hesitant to expect many different types of cargo right now, besides like the time, quantum, and maybe not even radioactive, I think. Mainly the ones that we have right now, just in different capacities and sizes. I think this is still the basic update. It's not going to completely transform everything, but in terms of functionality with the hangars and the elevators, the actual gameplay with these missions and all this stuff going on, overall it feels like this is a really big step forward for the cargo career. I'm looking forward to seeing how this affects everybody, and I think they've done it in a way that it's not going to be too bad for people who aren't focused on this as a way to make money. Feels good. Can't wait to try it out. This should be an Evocati sometime in the next couple of weeks, and I will surely be covering it whenever we can. Thank you all for coming to this. If you like these kind of analysis of the Star Citizen videos, I do them all the time, sometimes live on my main channel, but they're posted here. Give a sub if you like it and want to stick around. If not, I'll catch you later, and have a lovely weekend. See ya.